Okay, we're back. We're live. It's Tuesday. Whoops. It is Tuesday, isn't it? With Alberta de Jetley. And we're sitting here in a mock-up of the Hotel Coeli Lodge in Lanai. Looks good, doesn't it?
It looks as if we're actually there.
Yeah. Now, in the past, what was about a year ago, we were doing a show, had a problem with venue over there, but we were doing a show where we would talk to Alberta by Skype, and she would bring in guests. So it's kind of a continuation, except this time she's here in Honolulu. So I give you Alberta de Jetley, a good friend over the years, a wonderful person who's done so much for Lanai.
Thank you, Jay. I really enjoy being here. It's so nice to be here. And what makes it especially nice is we actually look as if we're shooting from the lodge at Coeli.
You know, I'll tell you, when I first went to the lodge at Coeli, there was a woman, you probably knew her, who was a great big Hawaiian woman, and she had a little wee ukulele. And at the sunset there, in the lodge part, you know, the front, I forget, there was a name for the room. There was a big room there. And it was a magnificent room. And she came out at sunset, and she was going to play for us. And I thought we would hear Hawaiian music. Not a chance. Gershwin, Cole Porter, classy.
When you said a big Hawaiian woman, I immediately thought of Auntie Irene.
Could be.
And she plays the ukulele, but she sings Hawaiian songs.
Oh, I'm sure she could do both. Anyway, so gee, this is a report about Lanai. Let's call it Lanai in transition, because everything is changing in Lanai. You've seen it all, and I'm not sure where to begin. There's so much happening. Let's talk about the hotels first,
right,
because they are certainly in transition, and they are having a profound, their transition is having a profound effect on Lanai. Talk about it.
Well, of course, the Lodge of Coeli is temporarily closed, and they aren't revealing any future plans for it. So we're all hoping that in 2016 or by 2017 at the very latest, that it will reopen again, because we miss it so much. It's one of the most beautiful spots in Hawaii. And of course, it was always rated, you know, as one of the 10 top resorts in Hawaii, usually within the top 5. So having it closed is very, very hard, and a lot of people miss it.
Yeah.
But at the Manele Bay, at the Four Seasons Resorts at Manele Bay, the transformation of that hotel is unbelievable. You won't even recognize it as being the same hotel. The interiors that are completed, the rooms that are completed, are out of this world. They're using natural fibers, natural colors, just state-of-the-art technology, electronics, so you come in and the air conditioning is programmed to you. The beds are super programmed also to you. Just everything about the renovations is exquisite.
It's slightly bigger than Coeli too, isn't it?
Yes, it is bigger than Coeli. Coeli is less than 100 rooms now, 104, I think.
Yeah.
And Manele has actually been downsized because they're consolidated some of their rooms into very, very, very luxurious suites.
Well, luxurious makes me ask you how much. When all this gets done at some unknown time, what's it going to cost on the rack rate?
Oh, rack rates are really, you know, I've been told that the rack rates will start at about $1,600.
So it's start
at about $1,600, but the level of service, the level of luxury, the accommodations, it's just going to be one of the most exquisite, most beautiful properties in Hawaii.
And the world.
In the world, yes.
Yeah. If you're looking for excellence, you know, there's an article recently about hotel rooms, the cost of hotel rooms in Manhattan, you know, and it's going way up. And a friend of mine I had breakfast with him this morning, and we're talking about a trip he's making to New York, $1,000 a night. In New York at a nice hotel, but not a really fancy hotel. So it gives you the idea that what we're doing here, what Larry Ellison is doing here in Manele and Coeli, it's going to be world class. It's going to be expensive. It's going to attract a new level of tourists, don't you think?
I think so. A completely different, higher level of tourists than we've ever seen in Hawaii. And you know, it's a little bit scary for a lot of Lanai people, but I think what we have to do is ride the wave, have faith that this is going to happen, and have total confidence that this hotel will become one of the most successful hotels in Hawaii.
Yeah, and that the jobs will stay in Lanai with the Lanai people. And you know, when you have a rate of 1,600 plus, you have to have a certain level of service, and you have to train people to deliver that level of service, and people are going to have to go to that level of service.
Well, when the lodge at Kuali first opened back in 1990, people were wondering whether or not we could attain that special level of service, and the lodge did it. People returned year after year to the lodge because of it's not just the hotel rooms, it's the
staff,
people, it's
yeah.
the staff who make the hotel.
A short story. My wife and I went early on, 1990, when it was just opened, and we loved it. I mean, it was so comfortable, and I want to say it was spiritual. It was that good, a total getaway. So we sleep, we get up in the morning to go to breakfast, and there's a gardener, you know, and he's gardening, and we walk by him, and he stands up, and he says, "Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Fidell." What? The gardener knows our names. This is not ordinary business. This is world class.
Yes, it's just Kuali is a very, very special part. And, you know, I grew up in Kuali.
That same location.
At the very same location where the lodge is today is where our family home was. So my family was very privileged to have lived there for 17 years.
Yeah.
So Kuali is very much a part of my life.
Yeah, those trees, those are wonderful trees.
All the trees are still there at Kuali.
Yeah. Well, now I'd just like to take a moment and talk about you for a minute, Alberta. You are the publisher, owner, editor, and delivery person of Lanai Today.
You're talking about my newspaper.
Yeah, that's
Lanai
Alberta's
Today.
newspaper. I get that, by the way.
Well, I started this paper in 2008, and the economy at that time was really, really down. But you can't ever wait for the perfect time to start a business. And my feeling was that people on Lanai with businesses needed to advertise. So I was going to give them a venue to advertise in. And since then, I've only raised my rates once. I'm not a very good business person. I'm a community person. And my whole goal with this newspaper is to provide a way for people to know what the businesses are.
Yeah.
It's totally community-based.
Yeah.
We try to have as much local news in it as possible. And I like it when people, you know, give me little stories about what's going on in their lives and what's happening, and we put it into the paper for them.
Well, it is a center, it's a central point in Lanai, I mean, the community there. And Lanai, for the people who live there, love it, going to continue to live there, ride the wave, as you say. It's all about community. It's about having, you know, the comfort of knowing everybody you meet, and you know, tracking lives through your life, and that's why you stay, isn't it?
Well, it's not just a matter of staying. I lived in Hana for a long time, almost 34 years.
You like remote areas.
Yeah, I do like small towns.
Yeah.
And I also lived on the other side of Maui. And in 1996, I was offered a job at the school. So I returned to Lanai to live. And when I returned, I just said, this is where I'm going to live the rest of my life. So what am I going to do? How am I going to become an active, contributing member of this community? So that's been my whole goal. I'm involved in everything.
Yeah.
You turn around, you need something, I'm the go-to person.
Yeah.
So you can call me, anybody. People call me from all over the place and ask about me doing different things for them, and I'm always happy to help. Yeah. And of course, you know, I offer my services with no fee. Yeah. So I'm a very, very happy person, but not a very, very financially successful person.
The two are not necessarily intertwined. It's okay. We here at ThinkTech know all about that.
Oh, you do things because you love it. You do things from your heart. You don't think about the money part of it. The money part of it, if it happens, will happen. Yeah. So
let's talk about your farm.
My farm.
Or shall I say your former farm?
It's still my farm. Okay. The farm started in 2003 on an acre and a half. I was virtually the only person down in that area.
This is after the pineapple was over.
It was in the Murdoch days. So
Yeah.
when Mr. Murdoch, David Murdoch was, the previous owner of the properties, he developed an area called the Master Gardens, and it was 58 acres down near the Lanai Airport. And his feeling was that if he provided a space, people would come to it who had worked in the pineapple fields, and they would be able to do small crops that would help to go to the hotels or go to the stores or be sold locally. And unfortunately, it never happened.
But you were the only farmer.
Myself and another man, Eloy Quinlan Kling, for a long time, we were the only ones down there. So as land, as I developed my land, the land next to me was empty, so I went ahead and cleared it without it being on my lease. And it looked pretty, so I went in and asked if I could have it added to my lease. So I added land as I went, and now I have 18 acres.
You realize that's a lot of acreage already.
It is a lot of acreage, and unfortunately for one person, I can't farm it all by myself. So I'm trying to think of other ways that I can partner up and maybe develop other crops.
Now, if you're interested in farming, this has got to be one of the best opportunities in the world. On Lanai, which is a very beautiful island, and the people are so friendly. And, Alberta herself, and you could help Alberta and help the community and grow things. What a fabulous, I heard you propose this, Alberta.
Well, I have a friend who is growing coffee, and we're thinking about doing coffee. And then I have somebody else who's interested in doing grapevines. So we want to try to do experimental grapes. And the executive director from the Hawaii Cacao Association is coming to Lanai
really?
at the end of this month
Cacao
to
too,
talk to farmers. So I'm holding a little meeting at my farm for the other farmers who are now in that area to see if any of them might be interested.
Great prospects, really. I mean, and you've got a good start going, and when the hotels come back online, you'll have a ready market.
Well, one of the things that I did have before the hotels closed down for renovations was I was the home of the Nobu Garden. So, of course, Nobu opened 2 years ago on Lanai, and their executive chef at that time, Oiving, called me. He said he had a film crew coming over from Norway, and would they be able to come down to the farm to visit? So I said, of course, come on down. So he came, and he's just a wonderful chef. And we developed this relationship where I grew and he prepared foods, and it became a beautiful partnership. He went off to Hong Kong, and his sous chef became executive chef, Sean Mill, and we had the same kind of relationship. So he's in Hong Kong, and they're sending another chef back to Hawaii to reopen when the property opens. So the arrangement is that I'm supposed to have the Nobu Garden growing again for her when she returns. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, that's going to be great. It can't happen soon enough. A few months ago, I said to my wife, we have to go back to Lanai to see Alberta. We have to, revisit all those things that we like so much in Lanai. So I went on, I tried to find the hotels or either of them, make a reservation, everything closed.
Yes.
Totally closed, without even a statement of when they were going to reopen. And
Well,
we're no better off now.
We just received word that unfortunately the lodge is being used to house construction workers, and that's working nicely. While the Manili Bay is being renovated, they've moved their executive offices up to the lodge, so they do have a crew of people, staff working there. When it reopens is whenever it will reopen. The Manili Bay was supposed to open for festive, but about a week ago, general public just received notifications that they'll be opening sometime in spring of 2016. And it was heartbreaking because so many people were counting on it being open for Christmas.
Puts pressure on the community because none of the hospitality money is coming into the community. Yeah?
Well, a very unusual thing happened. When they announced the closing in June, Mr. Ellison committed to paying everybody employed by Four Seasons their base salary. So whatever their base was, they're being paid their base, and they're being given community service work within the community. Mm-hmm. So it's been a huge blessing, both for the employees and for the community, because at the school we have maybe 25, 30 people working there. The parks are just spotless. They have.
That's great. Why don't they do that here?
They're down at the.
Honestly.
You know, I don't know. I didn't tell you, but about a year ago, a group of community-minded people, we all got together and we built a garden at the hospital, and we call it the Serenity Garden. It started out, the project was supposed to be small. We were just going to create a little garden area where the patients and the staff could leave the building to go downstairs to enjoy being outdoors. Well, we got carried away. The project ended up costing $80,000. We did it all with donations, so a few small grants, but we created the most beautiful, beautiful garden. It has wide sidewalks, all ADA. We have special furniture that's wheelchair and handicap accessible. And it's just become a beautiful spot where the patients from the hospital can go downstairs. And I say downstairs because we had originally planned on a garden near the front entrance, but that's where the parking lot is. So we had open space downstairs, and we decided to, on the ground level of the hospital, so we decided that would be a better location.
Yeah. More intimate, yeah, away from the traffic.
Away from the traffic, but the patients need to come down in an elevator. But once they're downstairs, the sidewalks are super large, they're wide, and it's all, the grade is correct so that it's ADA accessible. And it also opened up, the dialysis center is also downstairs on the ground level. So it gave the dialysis patients with their wheelchairs or motorized scooters a better access to that facility. And it's just become the most popular spot.
So interesting. You know, it is an example for us all to know about and follow community service on Lanai. It's a different kind of style of life. I told you she was great. I wasn't kidding. We haven't even scratched the surface either. When we come back from this break, you're going to find out that Alberta de Jetley has recently written a book. Written may not be the exact right word. She's collected photographs and written.
I wrote it.
And then she wrote the text for the book. But it's a fabulous book. It's on this table. When we come back, you're going to see parts of it. You're going to enjoy it as much as me. We'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live with a good friend of ours, Alberta de Jetley from Lanai, a lady who understands Lanai more than anyone, I think. And she has gone and written a book, and it's called, wait, I can get the title. This is Images of America on Lanai. Fabulous. And these are photographs to die for. They are really great. And she has put them together for you in this book. And you can get this book on Amazon, am I right?
Well, it's better if you get it from me, because
Okay,
if you
better
get
if you
it from
can.
me, I can autograph it for you
Okay.
with your name.
Okay, okay.
You can't get that on Amazon.
How can they reach you? You have a website? You want to give them an address?
My email address is lanaitoday@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And you can just email me, and I can give you the details on sending it to you.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the photos there, some of the events you captured and wrote about.
Well, most of the photos in this book came from the Lanai Culture and Heritage Center and their archives. A lot of people, as they've left Lanai or families have passed on, they've donated their collections, personal collections, to the center. And they're tucked away in boxes. And over the years, they've done a really, really good job of scanning everything so it's accessible to researchers. So the first part of this book started with Arcadia Publishing, who is a publishing company doing this. They contacted me by phone and asked if I'd be interested in working with them.
Really?
And I thought,
they came to you, but yeah. Who better? Who better?
Well, they found me on the internet. They found me on the internet, and like, it was just, what was I thinking? Because I said, oh, that sounds like a plan. I'd be happy to. Yeah. Not realizing the amount of work that goes into a book like this.
Yeah.
And I signed a contract with them last June, and it was like, I can't tell you how many hours and hours and hours of being at the Culture Center.
Doing research.
Doing research, looking through their files, selecting the photographs, losing the, they have huge files. And it seemed as if every 15, 20 minutes I'd lose where I was and have to beg for help to get back to the right place. So McCullough Enfield, who works there, and Simon Tajiri, they really, really helped me a lot in just tolerating me in their office, messing up their files. And then Kepa Mali works for Pulama Lanai now as their senior, as a vice
Lanai,
president.
if you didn't know, is Larry Ellison's company that owns and runs Lanai.
So Kepa is still involved with very much involved as the executive director of the Cultural Center. And then he's on the Pulama side. So he told me that after I compiled all of my captions and my chapters, that he would vet through it and make sure my information was correct.
Very nice. He had your back.
So he had my back, and one of the hardest things was that we wanted to use all of the Hawaiian critical marks in the copy.
Yeah.
Did you know that I spelled Ka'ulalau, who is the legendary hero who rid the island of all of the ghosts? I spelled his name 5 different ways with the marks in 5 different places. So it was a nightmare trying to get the whole thing corrected. But I think that now that the book is done, I left out a lot of people that I would have liked to have included.
I want to talk about that. So this is...
I left you out. How could I do that?
No. But this is an interactive experience. This is a dynamic book. It hasn't stopped at the publication. Talk about it.
Oh, okay. So this is a display copy. So as I go through the book and show it to people, they'll look at things and they'll say, I know that person, that's so-and-so. So when I showed this picture, which is the old fire truck with the volunteer crew working in it, the lady I was showing it to said, oh, that's my husband. That's my husband, Carl. So he's driving the truck. And all through the book, this is a photograph of Ju Nakamoto. He was the original storekeeper of what is now the local gentry. So Jenna Gentry saw this, and she looked at it and she said, I always wanted to see a picture of the man who had the store previously. So I'm going to give her a copy of this photograph, and she's going to post it in her store.
Great.
So
Perfect.
we're trying to create a living history
But
thing.
you're putting, now you can't put it in the book. The book is already published. So people answer your calls for identification, for further information on your Facebook page. That really touches me.
Yeah.
So the book is annotated on your Facebook page.
It is, and once I get all of my, all of the notes into this, I'm going to post it on the web so that they can access it and go through and add their own comments to it.
Yeah.
But there's just so many photographs that touch my heart. I didn't realize it when the cover was chosen. I wanted something else. But after I got the book back and was looking at it, this man, James Kawila, was one of the original Lanai Ranch Cowboys, he lived in this house with his daughter and son-in-law. And when I was a small girl, like I was about 7 or 8 years old, I used to go up to this house to sit and visit with him on the porch. I don't know what we talked about, you know, like he was an old man and an old retired Paniolo, and I was an 8-year-old girl.
I can see it. It's a touching, you know, image of you and the old Paniolo.
Well, his next door neighbor, Ernest Richardson and Rebecca Richardson, he was a retired Paniolo too, and this is Auntie Rebecca with her two daughters. They hanai'd our family, and they were absolutely the most loving, kind people to me and to a host of other Lanai children who loved horses. So this book is dedicated to them.
Yeah.
Because when you do a book, you gotta dedicate it to someone. And I was thinking, there's so many people I know and love. Who do I dedicate this to? And it became a no-brainer. It had to be Uncle Ernest and Auntie Becca.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they just meant so much to our family.
And this book is important because as we styled the show, Lanai in Transition, a lot of these historical images are really historical. They're not there anymore. They're not going to happen again. A lot of the people portrayed are past already. This is really a historical piece about Lanai, which is not going to be repeated and harder to find, you know, if you're looking. So this is an important book.
I just hope people don't read as much as they used to. So on the formatting on this book, they look at photographs. So the captions capture some of the history, but the book is divided into 7 chapters, and each chapter has an introduction, and it's only 350 words. You can read 350 words like in less than 5 minutes, you're done.
Yeah.
But it gives you, if you go through all of the chapters, you'll be amazed at how much stuff you'll learn just by reading the
and how much work it was to write it.
Well, if you've ever been a writer, you know that when they ask you for 1,200 words or 500 words or 50 words, you have to write to fit. So try writing 7 chapters at 350 words.
It's hard because you start out way over here and you have to work it down.
People don't realize how much cutting and how much drafts you have to do to get it down to the 350.
So I want to take another break, Alberta, and after we come back, I want to talk about, you know, how I first met you. And I'll tell you, I'll give you, you know, my recollection. You were on PBS.
Oh.
And you were talking about the wind dispute, and it was, I forget.
That show made me notorious across the state.
But to me, you were absolutely fabulous. There were 4 people at the table. I forget who the moderator was. He was the regular moderator, a guy with a beard, and
Bolin.
Yeah, and of the 4 people, 3 of them opposed the wind project. And Alberta was the only woman, and she's the only one who supported the wind project. And it was so unfair. It was terrible. It was so unfair that you had to stand up and cheer for Alberta taking her position there, you know, against these 3 guys.
The PBS people loved it. Their telephone was ringing off the hook.
Really. We're going to talk about that right after we come back from this break.
Aloha, I'm Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I host Sustainable Hawaii every Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. My guests offer insights on challenging economic and environmental issues facing our state and offer innovative solutions to increasing Hawaii's long-term sustainability. Recently, we've been focusing on sustainable land development, food, and energy security. If you have a project or issue you'd like to discuss on the show or would like to be a guest, please contact me at kirstenbturner@gmail.com and tune in live weekly or view the show at your convenience at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.
Okay, we're back, we're live, and now we're talking about another aspect of what Alberta has, been doing in Lanai. Now, there was this project. There was the wind project. I guess it was
Big Wind.
Big Wind. Big Wind. First Wind was involved, and Castle and Cook was involved. And there's a place called Garden of the Gods way over on the west side of Lanai. They're going to put some windmills, and Chris Laverne was there, stationed there from Castle and Cook to try to get this thing going. There was going to be an undersea cable. This was, I guess, this was at the, this was 2008. It was part of the Clean Energy Agreement, the initiative from Linda Lingle. But it ran into trouble on Lanai. And Alberta stood by that project. She stood by Murdoch's wish to have that project. And I agreed with her then, and I agree with her now. And it was really tragic that that project got stopped for all the wrong reasons. People were so misinformed and ill-informed, and they complained about it, but they were missing out. This would have been a great project. Tell us the story, will you?
Oh, well, I've always been an advocate for clean energy. And, and when they did 2050, when the state first started moving toward it, I got roped into that project big time. So I was in from the very start. And the whole thing about Big Wind is Mr. Murdoch was looking for a way to make the island sustainable, because at that time he was losing millions and millions of dollars just keeping the island afloat. The island is not and was not self-supporting.
Yeah, no more pineapple, just the hotels. That's
Yes.
what was paying the bills.
The hotels weren't paying the bills. Mr. Murdoch was paying the bills.
Yes, right.
So with Big Wind, he saw a way for him to recoup some of his losses, provide us with energy source, and ship power to Oahu. It would have equalized the rates for Lanai people. People could not understand that concept, that we were paying much higher power rates than other communities. If we had Big Wind, our power was going to go to Oahu. In return for that, we would receive the same rate, we would pay the same rates as Oahu ratepayers. And in addition, they were committing $1 million a year back into the community for economic growth, economic development.
Great deal.
To help the community, to help the businesses.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't sell it. Of course, the whole Big Wind thing hinged on whether or not the state or Murdoch or another entity would do the undersea cable. And the undersea cable, technically, it's possible, it's feasible.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Yeah, it's totally feasible to do a cable, but we just had so much trouble selling the project.
And it was a lot of contention on Lanai, among Lanai residents, which I thought was interesting because Lanai, the people on Lanai, would have had tremendous benefit. And there was a moment where Robbie Ahm, then with Hawaiian Electric, created this kind of package several years ago. And he said, look, this is what we will do for the people on Lanai. It's really a sweet deal.
It was a sweet
And
deal.
there was never an acceptance or even a counter proposal to that, because the protesters, the anti-wind faction on Lanai, just didn't want any part of it at any price. Didn't matter how he sweetened the pot, they didn't want it.
What people couldn't wrap their heads around too was the technology at that time. It's still changing. They went from over 200 turbines to less than 200 turbines, and they were
trying to accommodate the people who were protesting, yeah.
Well, they couldn't tell us exactly what kind of turbines they were going to put up because the technology was changing too quickly. So they were just going to put in the best that was available when the project was ready to roll down the road. And we were still years out from it.
Yeah.
So it just couldn't travel. So the end result of that was Mr. Murdoch had to sell the Lanai.
Because he was losing so much money.
He couldn't afford us anymore. And it was heartbreaking because he just loved Lanai beyond reason. No reasonable person would ever spend the kind of money he spent on Lanai. And it was beyond his ability to continue to support the community.
And he cared about the people there.
He
was
really,
visible. He
heartbroken.
walked the streets. He said hello to people. All that. Yeah.
And he was at our community meetings. He took a lot of licks over the years. You know, there were projects that people didn't like, so he did get his share of dissension. But it was still doable. It was still all right.
Yeah, too bad. And now, right now, the condition of clean energy, if you will, on Lanai is pretty much the same as it was in 2008. No, you got diesel generators, post-war diesel generators that provide most of the power. And then you got a small solar farm that happened that Murdoch put together in about the same time. But there's really no wind, no cable. I suppose there's some solar, but not a whole lot.
The solar is providing about 30% of the island's needs, and there are plans on the books. I don't know when it will happen, but there are plans to expand it, almost to double it in size.
Any batteries?
No batteries yet, because the battery technology isn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's happening is Maui Electric has been upgrading its equipment on Lanai. So their equipment now is so sensitive that we've had more power outages. The tiniest little glitch in it will turn us off.
This is not so good.
It's not good, but it's part of the thing of upgrading your equipment. And
Lanai,
they are updating their equipment.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people don't understand is, you know, when you have diesel generators, they're built to last forever. With proper maintenance, a good diesel generator will run forever. You just have to maintain it. So at one community meeting recently, someone went on about the age of the generators. They came originally from Canada when they were expanding towns in Canada. So those generators are mounted on railroad cars, and they were bought to Lanai, and they're perfectly fine. They'll work for the next 100 years with proper maintenance. But the housing, the engines, they
rusted and all this. Yeah.
Buildings around them
Yeah.
are rusted, so they look bad.
Yeah.
So someone was spouting off about that. It's not the outside that counts, it's the inside that counts.
They work or not.
They
yeah.
work. So you do need to have diesel generators as backup, and eventually maybe they'll be converted into liquefied natural gas or whatever, but they work fine.
Yeah, Lanai in transition. I remember we came out, the Energy Policy Forum came out to it was an energy day at the high school. And everybody was talking to the kids, trying to educate them, I suppose, about energy. Chris Lavorne was talking to the kids that day. And we were taking footage that day for our OC16 show. So there was this young woman, she was a high school kid. And I said to her, how do you feel about clean energy? She said, oh, I like solar. I think the whole island ought to be solar, nothing but solar. I said, yeah, but solar doesn't work at night. What are you going to do at night? And she was so quick. She said, well, we go to sleep early.
You know that the company was trying to have desal on Lanai. And if that project had managed to go through, then we could have had hydroelectric. Because you combine solar, daytime power.
Yeah.
Okay, so daytime, you're pumping water uphill, and then you do hydroelectric. At nighttime, you can flow it down through turbines and generate electricity.
Yeah.
It would have been a sweet deal.
Yeah.
It would have been so cool.
Well, water is an issue, and there was a desalinization project by Larry Ellison. What happened to that? That hasn't happened yet, huh?
Yes, the Lanai Planning Commission imposed conditions on it. One of the conditions was that their permit would only be good for 15 years. The company felt that they needed 30 years to recoup their investment. And there was some confusion amongst, talking to different members of the commission. One of them told me that they said, well, Larry Ellison's thing is money's no object. Come on, I don't care how rich you are, how much money you have. Money, when you're developing projects on this scale, money is an object.
Yeah.
And if you need 30 years to recoup your investment, that's what you need. So I think the company did the right thing in putting it totally on hold.
It's really too bad.
It was too bad.
One last point, and I wanted to ask you just quickly. about Nextera. You've had a meeting there on Lanai about Nextera, about the merger, or a couple of meetings, I guess. We know that people gradually tended more and more to oppose the Big Wind project. How do people on Lanai feel about Nextera and the merger with Hawaiian Electric?
It was really interesting. The first time HECO came over to Lanai with Nextera, they had a public meeting where you walked around and went to different displays, talked to the people who were there, but you didn't have a general overview. And I thought it would have been more effective to have had one speaker tell all of us what the big plan was. So I volunteered. I said, hey, I really didn't like the way you ran your meeting, but when you come back to Lanai, let me help. So they did come back to Lanai to have a community meeting. We ended up, I was involved with organizing it, and we ended up with 92 people at our meeting.
On Lanai, that's a lot of people.
Yes, that was, and Eric Gleason, who is the president of Nextera Hawaii,
yeah.
He is fabulous. He has been to Lanai as a guest at the hotel, and he had talked to me privately about coming to Lanai with his family. But he got up in front of that crowd and he answered all of the questions that everybody posed to him. It's just straight off, you know, no bull, just straight from the cuff what the Nextera plans are. And I think the people who were at that meeting went away very impressed. After the meeting, I had several people approach me and tell me how happy they were that they were able to attend the meeting. When the PUC came over to Lanai a few days later for the public meeting there with them, different crowd. Most of the people already have photovoltaic on their house, older crowd. And not so, it was a different field. They were more against Nextera. They had too many questions and didn't feel, it almost felt as if, hey, you guys aren't from Hawaii. We don't want you here.
Nextera had that experience in other meetings around the state. I'm thinking of the one in Big Island that was reported recently. But you know, you have followed clean energy from the beginning, and you supported Big Wind and the undersea cable, as I did. What about Nextera? Do you support Nextera? Do you want to see that happen?
I compared it to a bride being left at the altar. Because Nextera and HECO have agreed to this merger, okay? So Nextera is the groom, Hawaiian Electric is the bride, and all of her relatives are saying, oh, he's really not good enough for you. We don't want you to marry him.
It really sounds like that.
It's like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, give me a break. These two companies do want to join up. It will be good for the state. It will be good for the customers. And I'm looking at the big picture. Nextera, they will be able to offer so many different kinds of jobs to Hawaii's residents, and it will be high-tech jobs. It will be really, really good paying jobs.
From your lips to God's ears, Alberta. I hope a lot of people watch this tape. Right on, Alberta de Jetley, Lanai Today, the editor, publisher, and all, here on Community Matters, Lanai in Transition. I hope we can do this again soon.
I hope so. That was fun. Thank you, Jay.
Aloha.